This article is entitled, Doubly Magic Form of Oxygen May Challenge a Fundamental Law of Physics. And you guys know when I see a title like that, where something is challenging a fundamental law of physics, well, how could I not read it? Because isn't that kind of what I do here each and every morning? Challenge these fundamental so-called laws of physics. By the way, is it a law of physics or just a theory? So now we're going to call, because this article is going to be about nuclear forces, the strong and weak nuclear forces. This is about nuclear forces, which is a theory. But now they're going to say it challenges a fundamental law. So there's a little slippery thing right there. But Z's telling you it's not a law, it's a theory. And this article is about to explain why it's a theory, and so am I. Let's jump into it. Boop, 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 boop. Like right away, that title's already shows me the deception. So let's get started. Doubly magic form of oxygen may challenge a fundamental law of physics. After scientists created oxygen-28 in the lab, it almost immediately degraded, baffling physicists around the world. Well, let's read about it. Let's get a little geeky. Let's get a little nerdy, guys. And I'm the only guy, as I read these science articles, I'll probably say the F word like 30 times. And then I'll probably end up talking about, I don't know, Christy Lee doll and her dolls and her body and her tits or something. I don't know. It just happens. I'll try to keep it above board. Let's go. For the first time, scientists have created oxygen-28, a rare oxygen isotope that has 12 more neutrons than oxygen-16. Okay. So they created this isotope of oxygen. An isotope is defined, guys, by the neutrons, PS, if we're to follow their standard model. Let's continue. This newly created heavy oxygen isotope has the highest number of neutrons ever seen in an oxygen atom and was expected to be ultra stable and last virtually forever. Right, because we're told that atoms are stable. And really, if you could break apart an atom, that is the underlying theoretical mechanism behind nuclear fission and fusion. It's the breaking apart of subatomic particles within the atom and the energy it creates because of the breaking of these, nuclear forces, particularly the strong one we're going to talk about here. But instead of being ultra stable, it didn't last long at all. Let's continue. Instead, however, it degraded incredibly quickly, a finding that challenges our understanding of strong nuclear force, which binds the fundamental particles of matter, such as protons and neutrons, to form larger particles in an atom's nucleus. What am I always telling you guys about the standard model of physics? The standard model that says that there's 4 forces of nature, which in the title of this article, it called it a law of physics, but it's not. It's not. It's considered a force of nature, this strong force. Well, if this supposed strong force is what's binding particles together, and they're showing evidence that this strong force doesn't apply to the certain type of oxygen isotope, well, what does that say about this strong force? It's kind of saying that it debunks it. And what's Z been telling you for as long as I've been on here? I've been telling you that the standard model that physics and #academia and science is presenting to you is really a deception. I could say it's a theory, but that'd be being nice. So, what I see with these type of articles, and it's the same thing with the space presentation when they tell us, looks like space is a hologram because things are not behaving the way they're supposed to. If the theory of gravitation is true, then black holes aren't behaving around the theory and the maths that go with it. Certain comets are traveling at speeds that don't fit the theory They're noting these findings, they're presenting them, but what they're not doing is admitting that it debunks the whole model, this quote-unquote standard model of particle physics that implies four forces: strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, gravitation, and electromagnetism. Let's continue. I don't know if you guys don't understand what I'm saying here, the importance of it. Maybe some of you do. Quote, it opens a very, very big fundamental question about nature's strongest interaction, the nuclear force, says Canungo, a physicist at St. Mary's University in Canada, who was not involved with the experiment. Right, because it's this nuclear strong force that is supposedly the science behind the atomic bomb. It's supposed to be such a strong force that when it's broken, the energy dissipation is basically, let's just say, explosive. Thus the atomic bomb. It's called the atomic bomb for a reason. Let's continue. To create oxygen-28, a team led by researchers at the Tokyo Institute of Technology blasted a beam of fluorine-29, an isotope that has 9 protons, at a liquid hydrogen target at their Riken RI beam factory in Wako, Japan. All right, so they blasted this standard oxygen atom with this fluorine-29 beam to create this oxygen isotope, apparently. Upon impact, both the hydrogen and the fluorine-29 lost a proton, which created an entirely new molecule, oxygen-28, according to the study. All right, so you're creating new molecules. What you're doing basically is you're just adding these neutrons. And when the when the proportion of neutrons and the protons is changed, you're changing the isotope. Let's continue. Under the Standard Model, the leading theory of particle physics, particles should be stable if the shells in the atom's nucleus are filled with certain numbers of protons and neutrons that are known as magic numbers. Oxygen-28 contains 20 neutrons and 8 protons, both of which are magic numbers, suggesting that the molecule should have been supremely stable or doubly magic. But that was not the case. During the experiment, oxygen-28 molecule decayed within a zeptosecond, or a trillionth of a billionth of a second. Are we really going to buy that they were able to read this and take this measurement and reading? I'm not buying it, but let's go with their story. In fact, its presence was only confirmed by the products it left behind when it decayed. Oxygen-24 and 4 neutrons. Okay, we'll buy your story. Let's continue. I was surprised. Nakamura, a physicist at the Tokyo Institute of Technology and co-author of the study, told Nature. Personally, I thought it was doubly magic, but this is what Nature says. Though the experiment has not yet been replicated, the findings of the study suggest that the current list of magic numbers may not tell the full story of whether molecules are stable. In a separate case, scientists in 2009 showed that an oxygen-24 isotope behaved as though it were doubly magic, even though it did not have a magic number of protons and neutrons, right? So basically, let me interpret this for you. These scientists, who are basically morons, by the way, they're just completely indoctrinated. They have these certain, fundamental, quote-unquote, laws of physics that they're going by, the quote-unquote standard model, and they're discovering through their experimentation that the standard model is not holding up. So again, instead of realizing that this is debunking the standard model and starting over again, no, they're just going to beg the question that the standard model is the de facto reality, and they're going to continue down this fallacious path. It's quite simple, guys. In some ways, I think this is what they're trying to say, and then they're going to present these articles so guys like Z, kind of nerds like me who read these articles and could in some way understand them, they kind of want guys like me to read these and kind of blow the spot off their whole scheme, because they're not going to just say that they lied about the so-called fundamental physics of this nature. No, they're going to present goofy experiments like this, and they're going to get guys like me to come on here, and they're going to make me look like the crazy one. They're going to make me tell everybody, look, guys, they presented you with a fake reality, to the point where the very chemistry and physics of this realm are a deception. I realize that more and more. But I'll play my role. Let's continue. Almost done. The new study could pave the way for future research that may provide more clues about the mysterious forces gluing particles together in an atom's nucleus. Well, you're assuming particles, but let's continue. According to Michael somebody, a professor of physics at Michigan State University and co-author of the study, I think the results of the experiments demonstrate the importance of studying these exotic nuclei along and beyond the limit of existence, he told Life Science in an email. We still do not fully know what binds neutrons and protons together to form nuclei. Exploring these extremes tests the foundations of the nuclear models. Right. It does test the foundations of nuclear models. And if this guy is going to admit that we still do not fully know what binds neutrons and protons together to form a nuclei, okay, if you don't know that, then why did you tell us there's a thing called a strong nuclear force that does so? Why did you tell us that breaking this force is the fundamental mechanisms behind the atomic bomb? It begs the question, does the atomic bomb truly exist, or was that a deception? Many of us understand that story as a deception. Why are you now admitting here in 2023 that, quote, we still do not fully know what binds neutrons and protons together to form a nuclei? Why are you saying that now? Because hashtag science and academia says that they do know what it is, and they've been telling me for over 100 years. Since Einstein's theory of general relativity, which I believe was like 1915. Why did you tell me over 100 years ago that you do know what binds neutrons and protons together? Why did you supposedly demonstrate that to me with the atomic bomb? And why now are you telling me that you really don't know what binds them together? Because you don't know what binds them together. You lied from the beginning. You made up a model to justify basically the reality that you wanted to create, a reality that's telling me that I can live on an impossible spinning space globe in a vacuum of space, moving in 4 separate vectors at incalculable astronomical speeds. Maybe that's why. Maybe you had to make up a science to lie to me about where I live. Maybe some of us like me can see through it, and I'm calling you out on it. Each and every day I'm calling you out on it. The emperor truly has no clothes. Now the question is, are you going to be the innocent child who used his basically God-given sovereignty of critical thought to point out to everybody the emperor has no clothes? Are you going to be one of the inculcated, indoctrinated masses of sheep that are going to just laugh at the little boy because everybody else is basically agreeing with consensus that, no, the emperor has the finest clothes you've ever seen, and he's not just a naked old fuck moron being paraded through the streets? Because, guys, the emperor has no clothes. I can see it. And if you see it and still want to go along with the story that they're giving you, then you've gone from ignorant to willfully ignorant, which means you basically sold your soul to this realm. Sorry, you could do it. I'm not.